Another day, another dollar is a day. Before I go on, there's a couple of things I want to point out. First of all, I apologise in advance if there is any issue with the video quality at all. I'm not blessed with the best internet connection in this hotel, or this area for that matter. It's great. I understand from feedback I got yesterday that the audio was okay. So on that basis, I will proceed. So at least you've got something. The other thing I would like to point you to as well is my good friend Silver Fox Hot Takes. If you all go over to his YouTube channel, after you've watched this, of course, he has actually done a video and mentioned what's going on up here. So I'm very, 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 very grateful to him for that. Now, onto the stuff. Again, as in yesterday, I don't want to go into full, massive detail because it's still a live case. As you can understand, I don't want to prejudice or prejudge anything, but what I can do is give you as much of an overview as possible so you know what happened. Now today, the second day, and it felt like the longest day, was very much a day of evidence on both sides. What we did when we got there, everything kicked off at 10:30 in the morning. There was some discussion when we got there about video evidence, because one of the things that the judges stated yesterday they wanted to see was any potential video evidence of wrongdoing in the election. And stuff was sourced overnight and everything else. And there are timestamps which you need to get to so you can see exactly what's going on. Now, one of the interesting things in the video footage that came up was the fact that the returning officer stood on a stage and said, because of how close this election is, there's going to be a full ballot recount. That was more or less the words he used, so a ballot recount. Now, one of the things, there is a difference between a full recount and a full ballot recount. And without going into too much detail, the video that Graham produced does show what method of recount actually happened. And also one thing as well, which is very important, there was some discussion about how much time passed between declaring the recount and, when the final result was declared. And obviously we saw Sarah Poachin as the winner of said election. So that's important as well. Now, one of the things that came up was the nature of the clip that was provided. Where did it come from? How was it edited? How was it put together? That was something that the other side came out with. Next, Graham called his witness to the stand, a lady called Val, and she was one of the counting agents at the election for the English Constitution Party, and she basically stated what she saw and hopefully helped to corroborate, what Graham was saying, because at the end of the day, you need evidence in the way of witnesses, you need evidence in the way of video footage, you need evidence in the way of paperwork, and that's what it was all about. And there was some talk about, the procedure, where trays were, how tables were laid out, and all that sort of thing. Now, once Val had finished, there was a little bit of discussion about when Graham and everybody actually left the count as well. Once that was done, Graham had effectively given all of his evidence over, and we moved over to the KC for the defence, who was there representing the returning officer. And you also had a young solicitor who was representing Sarah Poachin, who was not present. When we moved on to Mr. Straker, there was some talk about, how clearly the video really showed what was going on, and you know, the movement of people, what you could actually see. I know what I could see sitting at the back of the court, you know, and the fellas sitting next to me as well. Now, when Mr. Straker really got going, he called somebody called Penny Housley, if I've said her name right, to the stand, and she was one of the deputy returning officers who had responsibility for overseeing the efficient running of that election. And what she actually went through was a little bit of her work history, and she'd actually worked up in this area for a better part of the last 10 years. And throughout her entire career, she'd worked on elections. There was some video footage that was played, which I'll reference in a minute, but one of the things that she went through, Penny Housley, was to go through the procedural process of what's supposed to happen at an election, with regard to what happens with the candidates for the election, what they go through, how many people, how many counting agents they're allowed to have with them, how many friends they're allowed to have with them, and what they're supposed to do. She talked a little bit, well, in great length actually, about the counting process. There was a thing called a mini count, which she explained in great length, which was designed to effectively speed up the process. I had some feelings sitting from where I was about certain things that didn't quite add up right in my mind, but again, I'm just supposing. Talked about how the ballot boxes, which you see at elections, are moved from the polling stations to the place where they're all going to be counted, and how they're treated in terms of security, who can get near the tables, who does what and where. What you'll see some of them wearing different coloured jackets and tops, and what each one of those does, and also the training which they're provided with. And also, Mr. Straker had a video of pretty much the whole count, and what they did, they ran through certain parts and got her to explain what was actually going on at those certain parts. Now, one of the things that came out, one of the arguments is, from Graham's point of view, is that a couple of bundles are 50, and you know, someone else there, and it looks like something completely different to what it actually is, the magician's trick. They tried to cast doubt on Graham's argument by introducing other figures into the mix. Again, I will not say what they are at this stage until it's all over, but at the end of the day, it's that side's job to cast doubt. They were talking about potential errors that could pop up in elections, how they're dealt with and the processes. And she was fairly convinced that a full recount of ballot papers meant exactly that. They were fully recounted, and by the very nature to confirm, you know, the result that they expected. That's what happened. And then she went on and spoke a little bit more about the people involved, and also the mathematics behind how they work out the ballot papers and trying to get them sorted out in the most efficient way possible, because at the end of the day, there's something like 30,000 ballot papers you have to deal with. When the KC finished talking to her, Graham came and cross-examined her, which, even though he's a litigant in person, he has a right to do that. And he made some query about the emblem of the English Constitution Party with regard to its display on ballot papers and that sort of thing. And one interesting point that Graham had, he held up a stack of leaflets, and he said, "These are 100 leaflets here. Could you estimate what you think 10 would look like? You know, give me a thing there." And he played a video again to try and resubstantiate some of the comments to do with the size of the ballots, when they're piled up into the piles there are. There was a little bit of talk about the relationship between the deputy returning officer and the count agents, the counting staff. Were they colleagues? Were they not? Where did they come from? Who trained them? How were they trained? And also a little bit about trying to determine their party ideology or party membership, because one thing that's interesting, before you're a count agent, you have to declare that you're not part of the election campaign, but rather you are acting independently as a count agent. But it doesn't really go into your ideology. For example, I'm English. It doesn't go into that, There was a little bit of talk about any potential disputes in ballots. Apparently there was some dispute at the time, which was dealt with to a degree, but some people weren't happy with some responses that came out. And then they spoke about what we call the illusion, the sleight of hand, which is interfering with this whole affair. And it's it's really where we are looking at. And she vehemently really denied that any wrongdoing of any kind was possible, any fraudulent activity of any kind was possible, and it would have been picked up in previous stages. So then it's left to the interpretation of the evidence, I suppose. When she was finished with the activities of the other side, the KC, I won't name him, but you can check it on public record, was concluded, he gave his closing arguments where he basically tried to do a number on Graham and said, his evidence holds no weight. What he said holds no weight. It was a properly run election. There were no problems. Doing his job, basically. I have certain observations and comments of my own. Obviously, I will keep them to myself for now. We went down that route. Now, one of the interesting things that happened at the end was the judges intervened and asked several questions. And, one of the judges pointed out a person's constitutional right to be able to vote in a free and fair election. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, a free and fair election. And the other thing as well, one of the things that they pointed out, if you think Graham got 50 votes and there's evidence there to suggest that something ain't quite right somewhere. And a very powerful point that the judge made at the end was, if Graham got 50 votes and Sarah Pochin's majority was something like 12,000, then bye-bye Graham, see you later. But the fact that Graham got 50 votes and Sarah Pochin's majority is only six votes, something may have gone wrong here. So I got the impression after today that it could swing either way. What's going to happen now, and I compliment the judges, because as a litigant in person, they've been very, very, very fair to Graham in what they've done. And they've not expected him to do a closing argument today, which would have been easy, get it all out of the way, I suppose. They've given him overnight to think about it and construct a response to the closing arguments at the other side. And we're going to come back at this at 11 o'clock in the morning. And, there are certain constitutional principles and there are certain things about what happened to consider and to put across and obviously counter some of the things that the other side proposed. So that's it, really. Again, apologies if there's any sound or recording delays. I really can't see them at the moment until this gets shoved up live. Again, Silver Fox Hot Takes, very much appreciate you covering this. I wish other YouTubers, alternative media, would do the same. It really does need exposing. And it will be really interesting to see what happens tomorrow. I will say, which I will cover in another time, when this trial is over and the judgment is in, I will do a dedicated video. By then I will be back at my own setup and my own studio and everything. And I will just go for it. I'll just say what I bloody well like then. And also I will tell you, I've had some very interesting conversations over the last couple of days with people that are here about similar subjects. So there is a lot to unpack. Anyway, please share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. And if I don't do another video today, don't blame me because I'm knackered. And I will be back tomorrow with an update on day 3, which will be the last day of proceedings. I look forward to talking to you then. Toodaloo. Now, I've got to work out how to turn this thing off. Right, where are we? Oh, yeah.